Hey guys, Perigi here, and in this video I'm going to show you everything that you need to know in order to create a responsive version out of either a desktop or a mobile file in Figma. So by the end of the video we're going to create the tablet and mobile version of this UI design which we created in one of the previous videos. If you're interested in seeing the entire tutorial, I'm going to leave a link in the description. But now without further ado, let's jump right into the tutorial. Alright, so we're back in our design file, and now we want to basically bring this desktop design to the other responsive designs. So the very first thing that we're gonna do, and by the way the same is going to apply if you're trying to basically create a responsive version of a mobile design, is we're going to go over here on the frame tool, and then we're going to create another frame. And as you can see, we have the next frame right here. I'm just going to make the background a little bit darker just so we can see these frames better. I'm going to resize this to a tablet version, so 768 pixels of width, and we're going to rename this to tablet. And I'm going to do the same thing again, so I'm going to use Option Alt key plus Shift, and as you can see the cursor is going to change, and I can simply click and drag with the left mouse button, and I'm going to create a duplicate of this tablet artboard. Now another way that you can do it is to actually use Command C and Command V. So this is another quick way to do it. And now we're going to create the mobile version, which is going to be 375 pixels. And we're going to double click on the name. We're going to change it to mobile. All right, so far so good. Now let's use Command and the left mouse button in order to bring down all of this section. And I'm going to do the same also for the mobile, which usually is going to be the longest version. Now I wanted to have some breathing room, especially as I'm working through the very first elements. So what I'm gonna do is essentially at this point, I'm just going to drag the elements directly here. And for the tablet version, I'm probably going to go to make it a little bit go up. And as you can see, we have for some reason, I literally deleted the logo. So let's go back. And in a tablet version, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a hamburger menu. So let's use Nucleo app again. Let's go over here. Let's write hamburger so that we can fit each and every one of the elements. For some reason, this one didn't click, but let's use this one again. I mean, someone must work. No one works. All right. As you can see, sometimes it's trial and error. We found one that works. So basically we're going to have a hamburger menu in the tablet version, and let's unframe this. Let's bring it here. And one thing I want to do is to actually add a layout grid, which is going to be formed of columns. Now in the desktop version, we usually have 12 columns, especially if you're working with Bootstrap. However, in the tablet, I like to use less columns. So basically, we're going to go with something around 8, and that will do the trick. Let's just make it a little bit lighter, and there we go. All right, so far so good. We have our good old columns, and I'm probably going to just resize the logo just a little bit, and that will do. All right, so far so good. You could probably stretch the menu, but as you can see, we will need some sort of refinements, but I prefer to go with the hamburger, and then we're going to have another section. So let's go over here and let's just select this, and we're going to center it. As you can see, text really big for tablet. And by the way, guys, one of the biggest tips that I have for you whenever you're actually creating responsive designs is to go ahead and test them directly in the device. as you're working on them, or at least at the very end, since there's nothing better than seeing your design in a real life scenario. So that being said, I'm going to kind of like create a version based on what I think it could work at a specific moment. And I've been doing a lot of responsive design, so I kind of have an eye by this point as to what sizes are going to work and which ones aren't. But again, I always test them afterwards, since that's really the most important thing. Because sometimes you're going to have some elements and maybe the text looks good in the Figma file or the sketch file or the Adobe XD file, but then once you actually see it in the real life device, you notice that maybe it's too big or it's too small, and you want to avoid that. So let's bring this one up, and we're going to bring it above just a little bit, because you still want everything to be above the fold. And there we go. All right, so far so good. Now it's time for these guys. So I'm going to duplicate them, and I shouldn't really bring them all at the time. So as you can see, the extra space now, it's coming in handy. So what we're gonna do here is we're essentially going to make these guys smaller. So I'm going to create a smaller version on this side, and it's going to be useful. Let's go here, let's deep select, let's make the width smaller. So let's try and see if they're going to fit. And still we're having some issues. However, what we can do is we can simply bring this below, so we still have them, technically speaking, and that's going to be all good. All right, I think overall this is working, and yep, we have the right sizes by now. All right, now let's bring back this sub-headline. Let's make it smaller. And yeah, around these lines could work well. Let's bring it here. And as you can see, one of these titles escaped the resizing factor, if you wish. Let's make this one smaller. Let's bring it up. And again, I have a sense that maybe these will need some further refinement as I test them on a tablet. But for the time being, I think these are fine. Let's bring this here. You can kind of create a version, or actually, let's try and make these look well within the columns ranges, and that will do. All right, so far so good. Cool. I'm going to make these just a touch smaller again, so I can kind of see already that they're not going to be perfect. And there we go. Probably also slightly resize the icons, but for the time being, I think this is looking good. So let's bring this one up, and we're going to essentially continue with the next stage, which is bringing this image and also this text. So let's just copy and paste this on the side again, and going to work our magic. So I'm going to bring up the image, and let's do that. And let's bring this one here. We're going to resize it on the go. Bring this one to 22 pixels. And let's make this one smaller, not too small. And for some reason this was in duplicate. Right, 13. Let's bring it up. Let's bring it here. And I'm probably going to just make an exception to the grid, because in this case I think it's going to work better. Probably going to have to talk with the developer about this and we can figure out a solution. So yeah, sometimes that's just the way it goes. And let's go over here and let's select this rectangle. Let's go back on this original, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to copy it, bring it here, and for some reason this rectangle has been copied way below. That's totally fine. Let's bring it here and let's lock the selection. At this point we'll need to bring these elements. So first element is the headline, and then we're going to copy and paste these ones here. These are pretty easy for the most part. You just need to bring the arrows all the way to the right. By the way, I'm using the dip select quite often, as you can see, with holding Option, and that will do. All right, let's bring it up, and I'm probably going to reduce the width, the height, since I don't want the height to be exaggerated on tablet devices. And there we go. All right, let's bring this one here. Let's deep select again. Let's bring these elements all the way to the right. And also let's make these titles a little bit smaller for the mobile device. And I think that at this point we're pretty much set. All right, so far so good. Let's reduce the size of this element, and we still need the view all openings button. So I'm just going to duplicate the view demo since we already resized it according to the new sizes. So view all openings. Bring it up, and here we go. All right, so far so good. Now it's the turn of the footer. So let's let's just copy the footer rectangle before, and I'm going to unlock this, bring it here, resize it. Resize it over here, bring it up a notch, and there we go. All right, so far so good. So probably going to just copy, all of these guys. Let's bring them up. And let's bring them over here. 1, 2, 3, and before. And there we go, pretty much. All right, so far so good. Now let's copy also these elements. We're going to have them on the very left. Maybe let's add a line. In this case, let's make it white. Let's bring the opacity down just a bit. And we're pretty much good to go. Let's make it 13. 13. And let's bring the copyright over here. All right, so far so good. So what we're gonna do next is we're going to bring all of this text on the right, on the top. And let's go ahead over here. And let's resize all of this. All right, so far so good. And now again, guys, you will need to double check on an actual tablet, an actual iPad, or whatever tablet you have around. So usually the way I do it is I just copy a JPEG of this and then open it up in the tablet. So I just send myself an email. You can also use the Figma app. You can also use all sorts of different apps. Add it on Envision, send yourself a link. I mean, there really is tons of ways, but for the time being, let's just continue with the mobile version. So mobile version, it's like columns. We're going to go with just 2 columns. That's what I really like to do on mobile. Just keeps things easy, simple, but yet also effective. So let's go ahead over here to the hamburger menu. And by the way, obviously, if you're working on a client's project, you want to keep the design file clean. So you might want to just clean up the file, the layers, and big tip is you want to have the very first artboard cleaned before you actually, because it's just going to make the cleaning up of all the other ones just easier. You're already going to have groups, stuff like that. But if you actually start, once you create all of the mobile and tablet versions, it's going to essentially take more time. There's no 2 ways around it. So keep that in mind. And yeah, for the time being, since this is just a demo, I don't want to bore you with hours of cleaning up. You definitely know how to do that. Or I also have like some other videos or multiple videos where I'll also do that, but I noticed that it's just something which usually it's tedious, it's boring to watch, it's not really as entertaining. So I'm just going to leave you that part out, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead over here, let's make this one smaller, let's bring it here, and what we're gonna do is we're going to bring these elements. I was about to say one by one, but we can just bring them all at once, just like this. And that's going to make the work easier. Now, again, you need to double check the sizes of the icons and all of that. It's going to look good. For the time being, I think this one's going to be fine. So I'm using Option Alt quite a bit, as you can see. Probably we can make this one a little bit bigger. And let's bring this below. All right, let's make just a tad smaller. That will do. And let's bring it up a notch. Okay, I actually forgot to change the size of the jobs headline. That looked just a bit too big, clearly. And then now let's add the main rectangle. It's going to be this one right here. Let's bring it over here. And let's bring it down a notch or two. And I'm actually going to duplicate this guys once more and create individual mobile versions. So I'm going to just select all of these icons, make them a bit smaller for the mobile version. Just select these. And we're going to bring them over here. We're going to also make the text smaller. All right, that will do. Let's just select these, bring them here. Let's also select the arrows. Make them smaller, and as you can see, I'm selecting the maintain the constraints. So basically this option here, constraint proportions. And let's make the height smaller. We're also going to bring them here just. All right. We also want to make the stroke 1.5, and that will do. All right. Well, that's pretty close. And here we go. All right, so far so good. Now one more thing I want to do is to bring them up just a bit. And we're also going to go ahead, make this one bigger in height, and let's bring this element here below. And I have a phone. So let's bring this one up. All the way up. And we're also going to use this button right here. I'm probably going to just make it full width since on mobile that looks pretty good. Probably going to do the same also over here in this one. Just makes it a bit more user friendly. And all right, that will do. And this is looking pretty cool so far. All right, now it's time to bring the footer in this section. And we're going to make it bigger than we need. Let's lock it. And I'm going to copy and duplicate these two elements. We're going to have the about here, the portfolio, and also these two elements right here. Let's bring this one on the side. And so far so good. Probably going to just make these a little bit smaller. And I'm going to duplicate them right here. Same for the copyright. Probably going to just locate it below. And bring also the divider line. And we are pretty much set. All right, let's simply grab this element here. Let's bring it up. And there we go. All right, I'm going to write this stop, this one. And yeah, there we go. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This was actually a tutorial which has another future surprise, since this is actually going to be the base for next video, where I'm going to show you software which is going to be really exciting. So keep an eye on that, and I'll see you in the next video.